right. So, welcome, Elizabeth.
Hey, how you going? Hey to Facebook users, people out there.
Yes, we are having some beautiful parents hop on already. So if you are watching this later on YouTube, please head over to Facebook if you're on there and join the conversation. We have such an amazing community of parents now who are joining the group, which is Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. And every week I try to bring in some of the experts in their field and share a little bit about what they know and how that relates to parenting and raising kids and dealing with big emotions, challenging behaviors, and all of that kind of stuff. So hello to a lot of you guys who are hopping on. Hi, Ellie. Hi, Kai. Hi, Taraka. Thank you guys for jumping in. Really, we're going to have a beautiful conversation tonight with Elizabeth about how our childhood and how we were raised is affecting our parenting now. So I don't know whether this is a bit of a new concept or a new idea for some of the parents. I think if you're in this group, it probably isn't. But I am really excited to have Elizabeth here and to have locked her in for tonight. She's a very busy woman. I want to let you guys know a little bit about Elizabeth and how I know Elizabeth as well. I don't want to do it an injustice, so I'll let you guys know how we met, and then I'll get her to introduce herself because she'll do it much better than me. But Elizabeth is a spiritual warrior and a spiritual mentor. She's my spiritual mentor. We met a couple of years ago or so at a business mastermind boot camp up in Brisbane, which was incredible. And yeah, we have just stayed connected. I have learned so much from her. I've learned about myself. I've learned about parenting. I've learned about kids, emotions and things like that. So it's a lot, too much to say. But Elizabeth, for the people who don't know, because you're in our group, you're one of the parents in our group, but for those who don't know you too well or your work, can you let us know a little bit about you, your background, and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. That was a beautiful introduction, actually. And what a beautiful group you've got. Like, it's been amazing watching, you know, and I love seeing your comments. I love seeing your posts, because even though my kids are now 27 and 25, just about to turn 26, it's so refreshing to see what's going on. The stuff that my kids were raised with is completely changing, you know, to allow emotional intelligence is such a big thing. So well done to you and your group. It's really beautiful.
I probably feel that though you already were in tune with a lot of that stuff because of your background and the work you do, and just your intuition, your awareness. I know that you'll tell us about, you started out doing massage and things like that. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, for those that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name's Elizabeth Elenor, and Steph just did a brilliant job of introducing me, which was lovely. I used to be a remedial massage therapist. I took that hat off quite a few years ago now, but I've been a single mum of two beautiful kids since my daughter was about 3, and so I did do it tough when I first separated from their father. It was really tough going, and through that process discovered, like, I woke up spiritually after having kids. So they went through the process with me.
Even though I'm here and you're like, here.
But there's no hierarchy, right? Because actually it's really interesting you just said that, because I do, on my Women of Light movement Facebook group, on a Monday morning, we do a thing called Spiritual Bites, which is like a conversation with me and Nicolette, and we've got Asha at the moment as a guest speaker. And we were talking about hierarchy and how that actually is you know, when you're tuned into your intuition, intuition is divine wisdom. There is no hierarchy. So regardless of whether I've been doing this for 20 years and you might have just woken up, like if you're getting divine wisdom, that wisdom's ageless.
Yes.
So, you know, yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's coming from a newbie, you know, babe, or whether it's coming from an elder, it's still the same sort of wisdom. And in fact, when you're first waking up spiritually, your innocence can give you a clearer channel to that sort of information as well. So sometimes you can have these major revelations that knock people out that think they know what they're talking about, and go, oh, wait a minute, you know, like I've gone back into my ego, into my mind, you know. So it is really interesting, isn't it? So so I woke up spiritually, I think about coming up to 25 years ago now. And now, like, it's been a long journey. I can tell you, you know, I don't know how much you want to know, but it's been a really interesting process. I didn't know anyone at the time. None of my friends around were spiritually inclined. So I was, you know, on my own and was a bit, you know, scattered with the whole process. Went to a meditation circle to find out, you know, how do I deal with this sort of stuff. And through that process, discovered a little group with a woman that was creating a book on past life regression, and I was with that group for about 7 years doing intensive training on past life regression. Like, I'm talking nearly every single weekend, really, really stripping a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight, of, you know, clearing patterns from generational history and all that sort of stuff, and then facilitating starting to do past life regressions myself. Move that into a thing called multidimensional healing, because it wasn't just past lives. And now I do a beautiful modality called recoding that, as you know, is just next level of everything, right?
Yeah, it is truly mind-blowing.
yeah, it is. It's life-changing, right? So, yeah.
I can only say that from my short amount of time doing the work with you. So I am most of the time very conscious that I feel like I'm scratching the surface and I'm still peeling back the layers and the shoulds and the expectations and the beliefs and the lens. Like, I feel like someone said to me a while ago, and it stuck with me, we only see out through our own eyes. I don't even know if that was you. And I feel like that's so true. It's hard for me. I've got all the stuff going that I've grown up with, and how I was raised, and, you know, the stuff we're going to get into tonight. It's very hard to do this on our own consciously. So recoding is such a powerful modality, like you said.
And, you know, Carly and I, my daughter's here. I've just literally moved. That's why, hence everything's a bit, you can only see that. But I literally have just moved. I've got my daughter with me at the moment, helping me move. And we were having a discussion last night, actually, about perception and how, you know, how are we to know that you and I are looking at the same thing, and I say it's blue and she says it's blue, but we are seeing the same blue, you know, like none of us know what we've just languaged that's blue, right? So, you know, it's up for interpretation, and it's a definition that we create in society. So, and that leads on to, you know, parenting. And, you know, we have all these belief systems and understandings and perceptions of reality that have all just been locked in and conditioned in, you know, the sky's blue. And
yes, that just penny drop momented me. You talk a little bit about this. Sorry if this is like not in the right track.
No, go for it. No, I love it.
You've spoken about the 6 sabotage beliefs. And I obviously, when I think of those, I do think of me and my, you know, history and who I am and things like that, but also how it relates as a parent. Anyway, do you want to share a little bit about that stuff?
Yeah, the sabotage beliefs. Yeah, I've actually even moved it into 7 sabotage beliefs, even though the 7th one is more related to all the other 6. So just to give a little bit of background, the whole thing with where we're at as parents, as people, you know, the structure that we're born into is wrong. It's actually a structure of limitation, and it's none of our faults. It's actually meant so that we can all experience ourselves as being an individual and experience ourselves as, you know, I'm Elizabeth, you're Stephanie. You know, we can separate ourselves, right, and say this is my experience of life and this is your experience, and enjoy that process. However, what happens in that separation, so before that, you know, as far as we know, you know, if you're religious or spiritual or got some sort of belief system, and I'd love to know, you know, the people that are watching, if you believe that there's a higher source of some sort, you know, and you could say it's God or higher, you know, divine energy or the source or all that is, or whatever the language you use, you know, that it's a, you know, unless it's under interpretation. So some people may say, you know, God is definitely different to what spiritual people believe in, you know, like that's where, you know, hierarchy, definitions and beliefs come in, right? But what happened is we were this beautiful creative spirit where we just were everything, or just had this, you know, experience of being able to experience whatever we choose. And then we came down, and next thing we're separated, where we identify as being this individual. And through that process of being an individual, we understand the duality of life. This is right because I get, you know, I get treated this way if I do this, and this is wrong because I get treated this way if I do this. So I better do this way and do it right, you know. So if this way feels more comfortable, you still move into being conditioned this way, you know. As you most probably heard me say, in a family of thieves, the person that's not stealing is the person that's wrong, right? And so, you know, we start being conditioned to be limited. And through that experience, so, you know, you're a little toddler, you're crawling along the floor, and there's this thing on the floor that people call a fork, and you see this hole in the wall and you think, oh, I wonder if that's going to fit in there. And so someone comes along and smacks you on the hand and tells you don't do that, and, you know, like you get that a couple of times. You don't realize that they're keeping you safe. You just think, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. You know, these are the 6 sabotage beliefs. You start identifying with limitation. So I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm insignificant, so I don't belong, I'm imperfect, so I've got to fix myself, I'm incapable, and so therefore all of that means I'm unsafe. And so we get conditioned to believe that we're unsafe and that we have to constantly evaluate or assess our environment to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And so here we are as a little child, we're getting conditioned by parents that went through the same thing. Their parents went the same thing, because it's just the way it is down here on the planet. And no one gave anyone a manual. And so, you know, here we are, we're being conditioned through the lens, as you were saying before, the lens of our parents and their DNA and genetic history. So, you know, epigenetics has proven that there is emotional charges in our DNA as well. So, you know, like for example, the Holocaust victims and survivors, generations, like 2 generations after, their children's children were in, even the ones that were in amazing, relationships and doing everything right in life and had a great job and blah, 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 were suffering from major depression and anxiety. And they couldn't work it, that took them a while, but then they discovered it was actually because the charge of that intense experience was actually within the DNA when it replicated. So therefore you've got that going through, life after life, or, and you're being conditioned. We need to stay safe. We need to hide ourselves. These traumatic experiences that are locked into our subconscious, and then it's played out over and over again.
Yeah, and that stuff, is that right, that can go back at least 7 generations that we know of with our knowledge, our scientific research?
Yeah, so science, as far as science has been able to show, it's 7 generations, but I reckon it's way longer, further than that. But scientifically, that's as far as they've been able to prove is the 7 generations.
Wow. So would you say then, for, people like you, me, parents watching along now, when we potentially have things that are coming up for us or that we can't get past, or we're triggered by certain things and we aren't able to pinpoint why, or I say, oh my goodness, guys, if you've watched some of my videos, I say I had a beautiful childhood. My parents stayed together, very loving. They never, split up, had any of that trauma. We went, me and my brother and sister went all throughout school, went pretty well academically. We had a good group of friends. I didn't have any capital T trauma, anything big happen. We had the opportunity to go to university, great childhood. And yet I still developed such I don't want to say like crippling anxiety, because it would come and go in spikes. And most of the time I was fine. But when it did come and I was super nervous and, anxious about something, my body's response, which I look at from a biological point of view in terms of my nervous system and things like that. I didn't just get the heart racing and the sweaty palms and things like that. My body, like, I went to the full extreme, and I fainted and I was taken out of the situation because it was too much threat. I was unsafe. Job interviews and in assemblies, and it was out to dinner with friends at a busy restaurant. And I thought, oh my God, I need to sit on the end of this aisle because I might need to say, guys, I have to go to the bathroom. Cope. And I was like, where did that come from? And so
have you spoken to your parents? Is there anyone else in the family that
not actually. No is the blanket term. I've spoken to them now because I am so much more okay with the fact that I had that. And we talk about it and things like that. And they obviously see the work I'm doing around parenting and things. And I'm an accredited anxiety therapist. They know why.
Yeah.
But we didn't work, I haven't worked with you for long enough that's another penny drop moment where I should have conversations with them about who else, like my grandparents on both sides and their parents and things like that. Is that right?
Well, it'd be very interesting to see, because it may have been in your generational, like in your DNA, a family history. However, it could be, and I don't know how many people on here, your belief systems, but it could be a past life experience as well. So, or it could actually be something minute that happened within the pregnancy. So our unconscious starts developing in the last trimester of gestation. So we can start creating patterns of conditioning from the last trimester of our gestation. So and I just to make sure we're going into the topic, how your childhood affects your parenting.
Yeah, we should.
And, well, it's still what we've spoken about is actually being able to give us, that information is that, when you're conditioned in this way from generational history, but also like if you were a first child and your parents have just got married, back then, way back, just got married, just, started building a house, the first child, they do everything in the correct order. And in those days, it was only just sort of starting out that, and I know I'm referencing generalised because there'd be young parents here as well as older parents. But, when you're first starting out and you've got no idea how to parent, but then on top of that, you've got the stresses of work and you've got two people, learning about each other and working out who each other are as parents. And so, like one of the biggest things for me when I was bringing my children up is I used to say on a regular basis, hey, this is the first time I remember doing this, to my kids, but also to right now allow them to see, while you were growing up, so was I. I was still growing up. I'm still growing up, and so, that's something that's really challenging to express to a little baby who needs you fully to be capable. And when you're still trying to work the world out yourself, and then there's things like, world crises in the middle of it all. So those things trigger old patterns.
Yeah, so is this, oh my goodness, is this where I wrote down quickly before, generational patterns? So can you explain, I think we're on to that, I just want to explain for the people who are watching and who are not familiar with that term or what that means. Can you explain a little bit about that?
What was it they used? Generational
patterns.
Yeah. So when, just going back to the epigenetics aspect of it, when you have a belief, right? And a belief creates an emotion. So you believe something, it brings up a feeling which causes you to have a response. So you act a certain way, and through that action you get a result. And so that result then is like a perpetual cycle, because that result then feeds the belief like I'm not good enough. So my belief is I'm not good enough, so I feel less than, I feel submissive and I feel shy or whatever, anxiety or whatever, depression. My result is my action that I take, I don't go out as much, I don't verbalize to people, I don't speak my truth, I don't stand up for myself, all of these things, right? That creates a result, whether that's a win or a loss in depending on what your definition is. And then, if that result is people stay away from you or people take over your life, you can't trust people because they squash you in some way. And then that feeds the belief, well, I'm not good enough. Okay. But that belief actually came from somewhere. It's actually a memory. So our beliefs actually come from, so just to back up a little bit, we've got 3 levels of consciousness, and I'll step aside the superconscious at the moment, but we've got our unconscious, which is the part of us that's been conditioned and programmed. And I remember seeing the lady that you had on just recently. What was her name?
Naomi Stockman. Yeah.
Naomi. She, like, if you guys whoever's on here haven't watched that interview, it was great to understand what I'm talking about here, because we're conditioned, we're sponges, as people, know that term, that when we're children, we're actually our brain waves are in a hypnotic state. So we're actually being conditioned and programmed.
Yes, I was just having this conversation with my husband like yesterday, and I was, again, because of the work that we have been doing together, I was talking to him about, the information that that you've been sharing with us about up to generally 7 is when our kids are in this particular brainwave state, which means they are accepting whatever experience and thought and belief and whatever language, whatever they're being told, they're accepting that as their truth. They're programming, and we are conditioning them. They are like sponges. That's why we say that.
Yeah, very much so. So if they're conditioned to feel unsafe, then you know what's happening now is that our subconscious is being conditioned from 0 to 7 exact, mainly, but then on to 12, and then it's a constant major things. Patterns can be charges within our body.
Yeah.
However, that the subconscious lives in the past and in patterns. Mm-hmm. And our conscious, the mind, the part of us that's talking right now and communicating, it lives in the present and often mainly in the future, because this is the conscious is the part that makes choices and wants to grow and expand and have desires of big house, whatever it might be, right? So look at the conflict just there. Yeah. You've got the unconscious that lives in the past and doesn't want you to change because it loves the pattern of, we're safe, and it kept you safe. So we don't want to have a go at the subconscious either, because the subconscious kept us safe at one stage. Mm-hmm. But what's happening is right now, as I'm 50 or however old you are, as an adult, unconsciously, we're being controlled by the 7-year-old that doesn't remember that we're now 50 and so therefore is going, no, remember, you can't do that because you're not good enough, or you're insignificant. You can't show up that way because of whatever X, Y, Z. And so it pulls you back from achieving the things that you want because it's trying to keep you safe. And it's really having to go, hey, subconscious, I know you're trying to keep you safe, but we're this old now, and, this is the expectations we've got. I want to be a really good parent. Now, getting back to the family patterns, so those charges can actually replicate through the DNA, right? And, if anyone's on here that's a Christian or has read the Bible or anything, it's actually and I'm sure it's in other biblical texts as well, they say that in there, the sins of the father will be, will program
the son and
produce over the generations. Well, that was talking about the DNA. It was like talking about it being programmed into the DNA, because when a DNA replicates, it doesn't just go, I've got an unhealthy DNA and I'm going to replicate and I'll just make it brand new again. Mm-hmm. It replicates the unhealthy DNA. So you may have a great childhood, for example, giving you as an example, and everything was perfect in your world, but 2 or 3 generations down, someone was in the Great Depression or in, in one of the wars where
my grandparents, my whole family is from the UK. So they were all, I've heard stories of my nana, bombs dropping and like lots of things.
My gosh, that's exactly, so there you go. So, that is, I would say, what has happened within your family structure I don't know, right? I believe in innocence. I'm just speculating. But that potentially could be what's happened is this, trauma that's caused it to be stuck in your DNA until we can reprogram that and recode that and move that out of your conscious state so that it's not a generational progress going through for your children.
Because it just hit me because we have trauma that's not our trauma, and yet it becomes ours.
We own it because it's happening to us. And then we go, why can't I want to be the best mother in the world, you know, and I keep doing this. I keep getting triggered by that.
At my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep snapping. I keep triggered.
Yeah. And you don't quite know what that trigger is, you know, like, you know, sometimes you might, and other times you're going, you know, why do I behave this particular way every single time that happens? You know, and and what's the most ironic part of the process is while you're in the trigger, generally there's a part of you that's watching going, how come I'm behaving like this? You know, like I'm an adult. I shouldn't be chucking a tantrum, you know, and yet you can't stop. You're just going and going and going, right? And you're chucking this tantrum and wobbly because things aren't going the way you want it to. And your kids are sort of looking at you like, what's going on, Mum? Yeah, it's quite funny, right? But then it's something that you know, one of the things that, and you would know this, I don't know how far through the program you've got through, but we do the family dinner table and the family disentanglement, and one of the things about that process is that we're often in a place of trying to do what our parents. There's a couple of different ways. So sometimes we're trying to take on what our parents wanted us to you know, take ownership of. Sometimes we're in that place of, and this is all can be unconscious too. Sometimes we see what our parents did and we try and do the opposite of it because we didn't like what they did. And sometimes we're in a place where our parents wanted to be something and couldn't for some reason. So we take responsibility. I'll do it for you instead, you know, like I'm going to be the one that goes to university because you couldn't, you know, or so we've got all these contracts. Yeah, well, there you go. So we've got all these contracts that we silently create. Oh. Yeah. And so it's having to, a couple of things. One is that I just want everyone to know that we're not broken. You know, we don't need fixing. It's just that we've come into the wrong structure where we have been conditioned to look at what's wrong and what we need to survive from. Mm-hmm. And so we're conditioned to look at the negative so that we can assess if we're safe or not, instead of letting go of that and moving into creative orientation is what I call it, and moving into what is it that I choose to create instead, and focusing that way instead of on our limitations.
Yeah, wow. That is, I have so many things going on in my head, but
go for it.
I want to get your opinion on something. I know we're sort of coming to the end because we're both very tired. Elizabeth in the last week, so I said I won't keep you too long tonight, that we may get chatting. I want to get your opinion on something. So something that I've learned about this year, and I've started to work with the parents that I coach about, is something called Neuroception, which is our body's unconscious ability to constantly detect and scan the environment and detect cues of threat versus cues of safety. So our body and our child's body, our nervous system, it's our autonomic nervous system, is doing this all the time. Even now, if you're at home on your lounge with your cup of tea and you're watching, and your child's body is doing it all the time without you knowing. It's doing it for you. So it's like when someone walks in a room, or you walk into a room of people and you kind of think, oh, I don't really want to go over and talk to you, but oh, you look nice, I'll talk to you. Like we pick up these cues unconsciously and we sense and we feel the energy, or we see people's facial expressions and we make judgments and things. But the thing is, and this is something that I'm still learning about, faulty neuroception, where I look at it in terms of a child, but it could be me. I had faulty neuroception, which meant when I went into an assembly in high school, when I went into some job interviews as a speech pathologist before I did my emotional intelligence work, in a busy restaurant. My body was picking up massive alarm bells of threat, danger, get out of here. You're not safe. If you're not leaving, I'm going to take you out of the situation. And there were times where I was like, oh my goodness, guys, I have to go to the bathroom. And I would hurry and sit on the toilet and be like, you're okay. Like, you can do this. It's all right. Or if I didn't make it far enough and I was like, Steph, you can get through this. My body would faint and it would be like, no, you can't. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And
yeah.
I would wake up like really disoriented, sweaty, like so ashamed. But I want to kind of ask your opinion or from your knowledge and your perspective, that ability that we have, the biological, we're picking up those cues of, am I safe? And is this okay? And can I open up and relax and chat? Or do I need to be on alert? How do you see that, I guess? Do you have anything else to add or to put on?
Well, it's really interesting because we've got apparently something like 400 billion particles of information that come into our neural pathways for us to process, like within seconds, like we're constantly in this space of assessing our situation. And so all the stuff that you just discussed is what, like that programming, that conditioning, it's all neurological processes and patterns that lock in. This is safe, this is unsafe.
Yeah.
It's not safe to cry in my family, so I'm not, I'm unsafe. If I get hurt, shut my mouth because I'm unsafe, I'll get into trouble. So then that becomes a child, an adult that can't speak out. Yeah, totally suppressed. Is suppressed by authority of all sorts, generally doesn't succeed in whatever they want because they're too scared to step out. So that's all of what you just said is all, just, I suppose, a different language to what I'm talking about with subconscious patterning, because, we've got, the thing that we do is recoding, right? What I do is, actually, I'll just mention it quickly now.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe this is a good time to chat about that, because I did just see a question from Vicky that says, how do we reprogram? She's written, how do we reprogram a teenager to change the patterns of growing up with a narcissistic parent? But also generally, how do we reprogram this? If it's in our subconscious, if it's generational stuff, if we're not aware of it, how do we overcome and I was going to say redo it or fix it, but recode it. So
recode it. So that's a really great question, and I'm going to come back to that, the teenage thing. But that's what's so beautiful about this process that I've just discovered and started working with. I've been, that's one of the things about being in spiritual processing for 25 years. I've been there, done that, like I've gone through the evolutionary process of, discovering how to support people to clear that sort of stuff, right? And I was also in that place, most therapies are, of trying to fix ourselves. We're trying to fix it. We're broken, we've got to fix it. This is the first thing that has gone, no, we're not broken. It's not personal, it's structural.
Yeah.
And that's really important to know. We are not broken. It's so much relief, right? Yeah. It's okay being effed up. It's okay. We all are, It's just the way we've been born into this, and it's okay. Take that pressure off yourself and your parents. It's not their fault, let's stop blaming everybody else. It's just the way it is, right? So with this process that I've just started with, so as I was saying, we've talked about the subconscious and the conscious, right? Well, there's a third conscious that we've got that not many people work with, and what I call the superconscious. So the superconscious is a field, if we're going to talk quantum physics type language, it's the field of all possibilities. And this is where everything and anything is coded in. So when we're first born, for example, the superconscious is the part of us that the sperm and the egg came together, and then the cells start multiplying, and the DNA starts working to make this little being, right? The conscious and the unconscious don't come in until we're a little being, right? And so the superconscious is saying, well, I'm going to give you this DNA and these experiences and this family heritage and these past lives, and you're going to come down and you're going to experience this, and your name's going to be Elizabeth, and go for the ride, like it's going to be fun sometimes. And so the superconscious has given you all these codes to create you as the individual. Well, this recoding thing that I've just discovered goes to that superconscious, because if you remember, the unconscious doesn't want to change, the conscious wants to change. Well, the superconscious doesn't care. The superconscious is just there to experience. So it doesn't really care if it's experiencing hot or cold, good or bad. As long as you're having an experience, it doesn't care, right?
No judgment. Yeah.
No judgment. And so what's really cool is I can go to the superconscious and say, hey, superconscious, see all this resistance to get into this, I want to be a great parent and blah, blah, blah. But there's this resistance of family history, blah, 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 blah. See all this resistance, and then I just command it, and it clears that resistance instantly. And it works every single time. As you know, I've been watching you through the course, messaging me going, wow.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't have to know how it works.
Yeah.
I just know that it does.
Yeah. I mean, we've just had some amazing results with the women in the group, right? I mean, I don't know if you know, one of the women that was going to move has just found this amazing property. They're moving in within the month. Like, the stuff that's happening in the group is amazing. But getting back to how do we reprogram that? It's outside of recoding, it's still possible. It just takes a long time. So it's, hypnosis maybe, NLP maybe, being very super conscious of it and having to retrain the subconscious. It's just a long process. It's taken me, what I've been through in the last year is super quick compared to the 20 years before, 25 years before. So now getting back to that question about the teenager, that's a really interesting one, because I personally, I would be asking a lot more questions to start with. I would be asking, are you the parent of this teenager that, you've left the narcissist? You would be the one that I would want to be working with, or I would be suggesting that you want to be starting to shift the damage and the trauma that you've experienced to start showing that. And this is getting a bit, again, quantum physics, but when you shift your vibration, that ripples out into the family structure, and things start changing dynamically already anyway. Go for it.
Yeah, you could see I'm like,
yes, go for it.
It's so in line with the stuff that I talk to the parents I work with about. I say, guys, there is very little that we need to do to our kids or do with our kids. We do the work. I know I talk about raising emotionally intelligent kids and managing our kids' big emotions and helping them with those destructive or challenging behaviors. there's very little we need to do with them, because when we start to shift our own way of being and our own patterns and our own habits and manage our triggers and change the way we show up and the way we connect and communicate with our kids from within ourselves, the ripple effect does it all. Like I'm working with families at the moment who have, 4, 5-year-olds, young kids with big disruptive, like holes in the wall, like lots of big things.
Massive stuff.
And when we, when the parents start to change the way they respond to their child, not react, or, the language we're using and the way we are connecting with them and things, this is all that we need to do, really,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I actually want to reference an image that I saw. I don't know if it was one of your stories or it was in your group, that must have only been within this first week, because I showed it to my daughter. So we've only been moving this week. But you had an image where what compassion looks like, or what it was I feel sorry for you, but then there was on the other side, it was what it really should be like. How, what can I do to support you, and how can I care for you? And it was really maybe you could reference it in the comments below, because do you know the one I'm talking about?
I feel like I do. Did it have different things on each side?
Yeah,
I think I do.
Yeah, it was like, how do you support someone, right? And so if you've got a teenager, depending on, they're 13 or they're 18, that's been through a trauma that you've been through too, obviously, I would say, if I'm just assuming. But going to that image that you put in, Steph, and saying, hey, like, one, acknowledge that this is something that happened, and what can I do to support you to move through this? Like, this is a big thing. We're both having to go through this. Don't be the adult that I've got this all my shit together. Like, I'm going through this too. I'm having to heal from this too. What can we do to support each other, sort of thing. Like, that's how I would work with it. I don't feel that recoding is for young children. I think it's the adults that need to be looking at the generational history and past lives, and then that will ripple through the whole family.
Yeah,
and then
it's like a circuit breaker. When we do this work and when we change and shift and move out of that incorrect structure, then that's us saying, yep, I'm going to break the cycle right here. Like, this stuff ends with me. I'm not going to be the shouty parent, the shaming parent, the smacking parent, or the we don't talk about emotion parent. I'm actually going to kind of put my flag in the sand and say, yeah, no, like, this ends now, and I'm creating a fresh, whole new generational pattern that is impacting the bloody future change makers and the future leaders and the people who
absolutely.
And
if I was to add anything to that, is if as you're clearing that stuff, if there's anything to do with the children, it's to ask the kids on a regular basis, what is it you want to create? What is it that you want to start moving towards? Let's move into the creative orientation instead of problem solving.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so constantly, like, what is it that you want to create? You can create whatever you want. Allow them to know that they're limitless, that they're empowered beings, that they do not have to be powerless, that they have the choice. They can be the creative force in their life.
Yeah, because we can either pass on that, where were we talking about this? I feel that notion of, we grew up as working class, or we always have 9-to-5 jobs and we work, get our super, or, we pay our taxes and then we die.
These are all assumptions, and this, isn't it crazy when you really pull down the layers? What is what are you defining in the now moment through this perception that you've been conditioned to believe? Like, that this is the way things are. It's very, when you start unwrapping that, oh my gosh, it can just, like, oh wow, I didn't realize that I had that perception. I didn't realize that I had, that this is the way it is, how you should parent. And did it come from my generational history, or did it come from world beliefs? Like, that's another thing that affects us, our world beliefs, our beliefs that we've determined ourselves, like being smacked on the hand from a caring parent, but we've seen that as being, I've got to be fearful of, I can't get something and explore. I can't be curious. Oh my gosh, is that, like, how many of us are not curious anymore because of those sort of situations, right?
It's just made me think of all the times that we say to our kids, if they're climbing or they're exploring, we say, be careful, get down, don't do that, hurry up, we've had enough, or just careful, that's dangerous. It's it comes from a good place, but it's very limited.
That's right.
So much
we could I know we could keep going, right? I will come back in, and if anyone has any particular questions for me, if you can just tag me so that I can go in and check out and I can answer any questions. But I'll also share, Stephanie, you did ask me if I've got anything coming up before we jumped on. I actually have a half-day workshop on. It's not even half a day. I think it goes for about 3 hours on Saturday, and it's reconnecting with your inner child, funnily enough. So, because that's the other part that we haven't even discussed, is all the different parts of us that still can take over, like our inner child, our wounded, our sabotager, all those parts of our personality that can take over before we even know what we're doing. We get triggered.
I highly recommend going along to that workshop. Did you say that's this weekend?
This Saturday.
Saturday. So comment workshop info if you are watching now on Facebook and you would like details on that, and Elizabeth will send you a message with the information for it. If you're watching later on YouTube, I'm going to put all Elizabeth's links in the description. I'll put it in the Facebook live as well. And your group is Women of Light, is that right?
Women of Light movement on Facebook. And for those that may be interested in just having a chat, I'll give you I've got a 30-minute, I call it an energy assessment call. So it can be whatever you choose if you just want to talk. But also I can, I read energy, right? So I can, just go through and check out what's going on for you as well. So
guys, take up this offer. Honestly, I cannot speak highly enough of Elizabeth and her work. Anything she does, I am there. And I've, you can just feel the energy and how open and authentic and kind and honest and everything you are. So please reach out to her. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I'll put all her details in the description after we hop off. If you've got any questions, just ask them, put them in the chat. I think there are a couple of questions that we didn't get time to answer. We have 3-4 people already saying workshop info, please. So people if this stuff really resonated with you and you think, I don't like doing this, I don't like being this way, I don't know where it's coming from, I want to overcome it, I want to work on this now, because I want to wait until my kids are in their teenage years or in their 20s and then think, I've lost that connection with them and things. Do this work, even just have a chat with Elizabeth. She's opening up her spots to have some time to have conversations with parents. So highly recommend it.
It's really interesting, because even not from a parenting point of view, the world's changing at the moment, right? And And a lot of people may go into problem solving and survival and think the doom and gloom and all this sort of stuff. And yet, from my perspective and my perception, I feel like we're moving into this amazing place of creativity. And so just recently I heard someone talking about Elon Musk, and he was asked if in an interview, if you could go back, what would he change? And he said, if I could go back and do it all again, I wouldn't have done all the degrees I did. I would have just done an art degree, because he said all the successful people, when you look at it, all the successful people really tuned into their creativity. They weren't high achievers. They weren't university graduates. The Richard Bransons, apparently Richard Branson's only just found out how to do a balance sheet. So, you don't have to have all of those qualifications, but to be creative and to step into, that's your intuition, right? That creative spirit is when you're guided by that, oh my gosh, the world opens up, and that's when you're safe, because you've got this inner wisdom that's guiding you. It's nothing external to you. There's no book, it's no workshop, it's nothing. When you can really connect into that inner wisdom and be guided that way and parent from that, the world is going to change. I know that you and I are on the same mission, Stephanie. Like we're being guided to open up more and more people to recognizing, and we're not doing anything but reminding people who they truly are.
Yeah, 100%. So I think if you're listening along and you feel like you want that support or need that help to how do I step out of that old structure and the old ways of doing things and the old habits and the triggers and get into that new, it's such a lighter space. Please, oh gosh, just contact Elizabeth, or friend her on Facebook. Go into the Women of Light movement. We're going to put her links and things in here in about 2 minutes. So stay on the feed and I'll do that.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, because I really, as I said when I first started, I really enjoy watching your posts, and I put my daughter doesn't have children yet, but I've already got her in your group so that she can keep, start educating as well. So I really love what you're doing here. This is a beautiful movement that you're taking women through, and men. I'm, like parents in general. So well done to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like facilitating the movement. I'm like, here we go. This is what it is, hop on if you're called.
Ride the peace train.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you. I'll have to get you on in another time, because that was brilliant.
Yeah, we've got more to talk about, I'm sure. Yes. Take care, everyone. Lovely and thank you for jumping on.
Yeah, don't forget, put workshop info in the comments now. I can see a few people have been putting that. Oh my goodness. Wait, I'm going to have to go back through the comments and I'll tag Elizabeth. So put that in there, guys. And have a beautiful rest of your evening.
Take care. Bye.